You ever meet someone or, start a new project and just get a bad feeling? That little voice in your head that kind of goes, something's not right here. But you push it down. You tell yourself, nah, give it a chance. And then, later on, you totally regret it. Well, today we are diving into a really fascinating philosophy that says that first feeling, well, that's the only one that actually matters.
So to really get this idea, let's kick things off with a simple story from the source material. It's a powerful, maybe even a little controversial lesson that I have a feeling is going to sound incredibly familiar to some of you.
The person behind this philosophy tells this story about hiring a carpenter. On the very first cut, the first one, the line was crooked. Now that's an immediate, pretty undeniable red flag. But it's so easy to just dismiss it, right? It's just one tiny mistake.
But see, that crooked line, it wasn't just a mistake. Oh no, it was a preview. It was basically the trailer for the entire frustrating movie that was about to unfold. That one little error, it predicted a whole pattern of sloppiness, wasted materials, and a project that turned into a total headache.
And that single experience led to this huge realization. That first flicker of doubt, that crooked line, it wasn't some minor detail you could just overlook. It was the signal. The signal. And it became the foundation for a whole new way of looking at the world.
So look, this is not just about avoiding bad carpenters. It's a much deeper philosophy that the author calls the magical first time. It's this core idea that your very first encounter with anything or anyone is just packed with more truth than you probably think.
Okay, so let's be super clear about what this means. The magical first time is this belief that your first interaction, your gut feeling, that initial observation, it isn't just a starting point. It's a complete revelation. It's showing you the fundamental nature of that person or that situation right then and there.
And the language used to talk about this is, well, it's really powerful. The source actually calls it a divine revelation, which suggests this first feeling is way more than just a whim or some random guess. It's framed as this critical, almost spiritual piece of information that's being sent directly to you.
So if every first time is this big divine revelation, what are you supposed to do with that information? Well, the philosophy lays out a very straightforward and super decisive rule of action.
It's a really simple three-step process. First, you have the experience. Step 2, you check in with yourself. I mean, how does this actually make you feel? Good? Bad? Kinda uneasy? Energized? And then step 3, you act on that feeling, and you act immediately. You either lean in and you keep going, or you cut it off. That's it. No hesitation.
And you gotta get this. This is not just for your professional life. The author is crystal clear that this rule applies everywhere. That first date that feels awkward and just draining, don't schedule a second one. That new business partner who seems a little slippery in that first meeting, walk away. That new city you visit that just gives you a bad vibe, don't move there.
Okay, and this is where the idea gets, well, pretty radical. Because making such quick, decisive judgments goes against so much of the common advice we hear all the time about patience and tolerance and giving second chances.
I mean, here's where you really see the clash, right? We're always told, be patient, people can change. This philosophy says, nope, a person's core nature takes ages to shift, and you don't have that kind of time. We're told, don't judge a book by its cover. This philosophy, it argues the cover is a perfect advertisement for what's inside. So the crucial point here, the absolute key, is that this first feeling is uniquely yours. It's not about logic or how much experience you have. It's a deep, personal, physical response. The author argues it is more trustworthy than advice from any expert, any mentor, or even your family, because they can't feel what you feel. Your gut is your most reliable guide, period.
Okay, so you might be wondering, why does this even work? How can that first feeling be so spot on? Well, the author uses this really powerful analogy to explain what's going on underneath it all. And it all comes down to frequency.
The idea is basically that people, just like elements in nature, have a fundamental vibration, a frequency. And we naturally and unconsciously just kind of align with people who share our core nature. Sincere people tend to find other sincere people. Complicated people? Well, they find other complicated people.
And this is the perfect metaphor for it. When two things are compatible, like water and milk, they blend so easily. But when they're not, like water and oil, you can force them together for a second, but they will always separate. That first feeling you get, that's your inner detector telling you, hey, are you mixing with water here, or are you mixing with oil? All right, so let's bring all this home.
Following this rule isn't just about efficiency or, avoiding a bad hire. It's about making a conscious and really powerful choice about the kind of life you actually want to live.
And let's be honest for a second. Why do we ignore those bad first impressions? A lot of the time, it's because we're afraid of being alone, or of missing out, or maybe being seen as too judgmental. But the author argues that forcing a connection that feels wrong from the start, that doesn't cure loneliness. It actually creates a much deeper, more painful kind of despair. And that brings us to the ultimate takeaway here, this powerful call to action. Value your own peace, your own happiness, above everything else. Don't waste the short time you have on this earth trying to endure situations or relationships that felt wrong from the very first moment. Choose joy, even if it feels like a risk.
And this all leaves us with one final, pretty pointed question. It's not about reevaluating the person or the situation that gave you a bad feeling. It's about reevaluating your own decision to ignore that initial signal. So, looking back, what magical first time did you ignore? And what did you end up learning from it?